There's a version of Ocala you can understand in 10 minutes just by driving through it. And there's another version you only see when you stop and start walking. You notice how the streets meet the square. You notice which buildings survived and which ones were replaced. You notice what the town chose to preserve and what it decided to rebuild in a different shape. And then if you drive a few minutes outside the center, you run into something that complicates the whole story. A U.S. Army fort sitting in what is now an ordinary residential neighborhood, like history, got left behind on purpose. This is the Gallivanter Podcast. I'm Chad. Episode 1 was about how Ocala became a name people recognized through early Florida tourism, especially Silver Springs. This episode is about the place itself, the civic core, the downtown square, the cultural touchstones, and one key site that sits just outside the center like a quiet prologue, Fort King. If you understand Fort King, the rest of Ocala reads differently. Fort King was established in 1827, not as a frontier curiosity, but as a deliberate U.S. Army installation meant to anchor federal authority in interior Florida. At the time, this was not a town site. It was pine scrub and sand, chosen precisely because it sat near established Seminole trails and offered a strategic position for movement and supply. The fort became a key headquarters during the Second Seminole War, beginning in 1835 when U.S. forces attempted to enforce Indian removal policies across Central Florida. Officers stationed here coordinated campaigns, housed troops, and conducted negotiations that shaped the course of the war. Fort King is inseparable from one of the war's most consequential events. In December 1835, Seminole leaders, including Osceola, were summoned near the fort under a flag of truce. Several were seized by U.S. forces, an act that hardened resistance and ensured the war would escalate rather than end. That moment reverberates far beyond Ocala, but it happened here. The fort itself did not remain static. It was abandoned, reoccupied, burned, and rebuilt over the course of the conflict, reflecting the instability of the region and the intensity of the fighting. By the time the war wound down in the 1840s, Fort King had served its purpose, and the military presence faded. What followed is the part that explains Ocala. Settlement clustered near the former fort, roads radiated outward. Civil government replaced military command. In 1849, Marion County established a seat nearby, and Ocala emerged not in spite of the fort, but because the fort had already defined the place. What visitors walk through today is a reconstruction completed in 2017 on the original site, based on historical documentation and archaeology. It restores the scale and layout of the fort, not to romanticize it, but to make clear what stood here first. Ocala does not begin as a courthouse town or a commercial crossroads. It begins as a military outpost tied directly to expansion, conflict, and removal. Everything civic that comes later is built on ground first shaped by federal power. Ocala's downtown square was designated as a public square in the original plat, and for decades it hosted Marion County's courthouse. If you stand in the square today, you won't see a courthouse at the center. That absence is part of the story. Courthouses came and went over time, including major later courthouses that sat on the square into the 20th century. The final courthouse to stand here was demolished, and the square transitioned into a public park. So the square still functions as intended. It's public space. It's just no longer judicial space. And if you look around now, you see Ocala making a different statement, with life-sized painted horse statues placed throughout the city, including here in the square, created as part of the Horse Fever public art project with local artists. It's a modern signal, but it sits on top of an older plan. Ocala's downtown was changed by a single catastrophic event that happened on Thanksgiving Day, November the 29th, 1883, when a fire destroyed multiple blocks. This is where Ocala's brick city identity comes from, because rebuilding in brick became the practical solution when the town decided it could not keep losing its core to fire. That decision is still visible. The massing of the buildings around the square, the older commercial facades, and the way downtown holds together as a walkable set of blocks all trace back to the moment the town rebuilt with permanence in mind. Ocala has always had more culture than outsiders expect, and part of the evidence is that downtown entertainment was not an afterthought. There was an opera house in the Marion block in the late 19th century, used for performances and major gatherings. Later, in 1941, the Marion Theatre opened in downtown, a streamlined Art Deco movie house that's still a landmark and community gathering spot. It's the kind of place that tells you something about what Ocala wanted to be in the mid-20th century. A place that went out at night, a place that didn't outsource its culture to some other city. Downtown Ocala Square now mixes heritage and small, specific delights that give a town texture. Grandpa Joe's Candy Shop is one of those. It's explicitly a nod to the Willy Wonka universe, and it leans into that idea with a big, bright, nostalgic presentation that works because it doesn't pretend to be subtle. This is the kind of local spot that screams nostalgia from the sidewalk and its animated window displays. It signals a downtown that still welcomes foot traffic and still makes room for businesses built around simple pleasure. A few minutes from the square, Tuscaloosa Park operates as one of the city's central gathering spaces, and it's also where you can see Ocala investing in a culture that families can actually use. The Discovery Center, located at Tuscaloosa Park, is a hands-on children's science center with rotating exhibits and STEAM programming. Nearby, Midtown Station has become a modern social hub on the edge of that same park, built as a food hall with multiple vendors and a view across the water and green space. In other words, this part of Ocala is not trying to be a museum district sealed off from daily life. It's parks, kids, public space, and meals that are easy to build into a day. If you want a lunch stop that sits naturally inside the downtown story, Depot on Magnolia works well, both for the location and the concept. It's set up inside a historic depot building with a steampunk-inspired interior right in the downtown area, and it's positioned as a solid midday option when you're doing Ocala on foot and you want a break without leaving the core. Then there's the Appleton Museum of Art, which sits outside the downtown area but functions as one of the strongest cultural anchors in the city. The Appleton is home to a permanent collection of more than 24,000 objects. This is not a small-town gallery pretending to be bigger than it is. It's a full-scale museum with serious holdings and steady programming, and it's one of the reasons Ocala can claim culture with a straight face. Should be noted that downtown Ocala is also in a big growth phase, with infrastructure catching up to demand. Plans include an AC hotel by Marriott and a 6-level parking garage with more than 800 spaces. Progress is moving along on both of those projects, while in Midtown, the Forge is slated as a major new dining and entertainment campus, projected to open a little later this year. Those are not small additions. They change the way people move through downtown and how long they stay. If downtown is Ocala's public face, Shalom Park is the opposite, a short drive out of town that gives you a completely different version of the area. Shalom Park is a privately owned, nonprofit garden park with meadows, woodland areas, and curated garden spaces, open daily with free admission, designed for walking and quiet rather than programming and crowds. It's worth including in a downtown and culture episode because it rounds out the picture. Ocala's cultural life isn't only brick and storefronts. It includes landscape, intentional calm, and spaces built for people who want Florida without noise. Ocala is a place that keeps reinventing the same core idea. Make a center, protect it, invite people in, give them reasons to stay longer. That's it for now. Wherever you go, take the story with you.